Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Meta Cafe. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax. Let's chat about what is happening up in the stars today. And we'll take a look at a couple of the days coming up between now and the time we next meet, which won't be until Monday, which I believe will be like December 2nd. Hard to believe, right? December. Wow. Just wow. We are already heading into the holiday season. Here in the US, we have Thanksgiving Day tomorrow. And that's always that huge gateway to the shopping craze that comes up called Black Friday. I never participate in that. It's just ridiculous. And also then to the beginning of the holiday rush. All the music, all the fun, all the food. Yay! I'm so excited. I really do love the holidays. I just don't like the shopping mess out there. But that's all right. That's just a part of the season, I guess. That's why I do a lot of shopping online at stores, because even through, local places that have websites, because it's just so much easier. So anyway, let's see if we can begin a conversation about what is happening today. I see a couple of people checking in already. Good morning, Allison. She said, good morning. The year is almost over. And isn't that true? We are in the last few weeks of 2019, but it's even more profound than that, because when you think about it, we're also coming to the end of a decade, right? The 10 years from 2010 until 2020. That means we're 2 decades into the 2000s, right? To the new millennium. Remember, it was just 20 years ago, about now, where we were all freaking out about Y2K and the big hullabaloo about what was going to happen to our computers. Which of course nothing ever happened from that. Everything went smoothly. But here we are at the beginning of the 20th year of the new millennium. It's hard to believe that much time has gone by. So we're coming to the end of a larger cycle. And because it's the end of a 20-year cycle, we also know that we are coming to the end of a Jupiter-Saturn cycle. We still have all of 2020 to move through that cycle, through the ending of that cycle. But it's a pretty profound beginning that happens on winter solstice next year. We'll talk about that in the astrology for 2020, when Jupiter and Saturn come together at 0 degrees Aquarius. And what does that mean for us, right? That's huge. That is like a 260-year shift in the energies that have been in earth signs moving into air signs, and it will fundamentally shift the next 2 decades that we're in. So you'll want to join us in the Astrology for 2020 webinar and find out what that means for you and for us in general. Good morning, Jan and Mimi and Marissa. Good morning to you. Mimi says, LOL, partied like it was 1999. Oh, you're so funny. Yes, we all did. It seems to me, it seems to me that I had the flu at the Y2K at New Year's, and it was not a pleasant one for me. And I missed a friend's wedding because it was, she was getting married the day after Christmas. It's terrible. Jen says, ready to ring in 2020. Goodbye to 2019. Trisha Gelder, good morning to you, my soul sister. We share the same birthday. So we have some things to talk about this morning. I decided I'm not going to go into 4 days worth of astrological transits. It just is too much information. It's overload. So likely what I will do is put out an email, not an email, but a Facebook blast about the weekend, so I don't have to deal with all of that this morning, because we have some other important things to talk about this morning. First off, today we start out the moon in Sagittarius. In fact, all day the moon is in Sagittarius, and it makes only one major connection today, and that is a square to Neptune, which is a little bit of a disturber of the peace today, as it is turning direct. So we have Neptune changing directions. At the same time, the moon is coming into a challenging square with the planet Neptune. All in all, that makes this day today a little bit difficult in terms of making decisions, right? We might feel a little bit gobsmacked We might feel a little bit waffling in our, going back and forth. Yes, do that. No, don't do that. Yes, do that. No, don't do that. So today is more daydreamy, even where our head's in the clouds. It's harder to put our feet on the ground. The plus side is that we may find ourselves with more psychic energy today, or more psychic energy is available for us today, as in we're taking it in and we can maybe hear it easier. And when I say psychic energy, it could be anything from intuitive hits to, visions to dreams, etc. This just seems to be a time where our psychic or spiritual defenses are down a bit, so we're more willing, ready, and able to absorb what's going on in the unseen realm around us. But that can also lead to a lack of clarity. So if you have big decisions that you need to make today, you might just consider holding off for another day or two until Neptune gets a chance to move forward and to get out of the square to Neptune with the moon today. Now, let's talk about Neptune direct. Neptune is a giant planet far away from us. It has a 165-year cycle. So no one living on the planet has ever completed an entire Neptune cycle, or at least not in our current day and age, owing to the fact it's far enough out there, and its orbit around the sun takes a long time. So and Neptune, by the way, spends about 5 months out of each year in retrograde. When Neptune is retrograde, there's a lot of inner work going on, a lot of inner connections, a lot of spiritual embodiment, a lot of intuitive and instinctual type of energy that's available that we're more likely willing to listen to during the retrograde period of time. Now, when Neptune shifts and moves back to direct motion, we sort of dumb that down a bit, right? Now that the planet's moving forward and it's time for the more outward expression of our intuition. So while today's decision-making capabilities are a little bit fuzzy, over time, we're likely going to clear up some of that more confusing energy that we might have been feeling. Maybe we were trying to make a big decision about some direction that our life was going to take, some thing that we wanted to purchase, or a move that we wanted to make, something big in our lives that we've maybe been putting off the decision for, which would have been good, because now we're inclined to sort of clear up that confusion. And then in that case, we have an increasing creative and imaginative expression, because we're feeling more confident. We're feeling less self-doubt. Although doubt is still a part of the stream of energy that Neptune is bringing to us, because it is sitting at the gate 63 in your human design, and the gate 63 sits on the outer corner of the head center. So if you're looking at it, it's the outer gate on the right side, and it moves down to join the Ajna in the gate of answers. But it is literally the gate of doubt, where we are meant to doubt and be suspicious about what other people bring to us or what other people want from us. But unfortunately, we often we end up in sort of an interesting situation where we almost trust other people more than what we should, and trust ourselves less than what we should. So we're having to sort of take that into consideration now. Where are you trusting the outer world and other people's voices in a much more powerful way than you're trusting your own? So self-doubt is a no-no in this particular energy, but doubting and being suspicious of other people, their motivations, and getting you to do something is absolutely okay for you to be engaged in right now. It's interesting because I tell this to people all the time, the head center, where we believe it is that we are meant to make decisions from, is filled with energy like doubt and suspicion and confusion and asking questions or feeling pressure to ask questions that aren't even your own. There's awe and wonderment, also psychosis in your head, in the head center. So if that doesn't tell you that it's not a good place to make decisions, I don't know what else would, right? That is just not the right place to make your decisions from. It is why you have authority lower in the body, where you actually aren't clouded by those kinds of energies, confusion, doubt, and awe. So Neptune direct, disillusionment might turn into illumination. So if the world has put pressure on you, has disillusioned, if you're feeling disillusioned in your career, in your relationships, in your life choices, take heart, because the light is about to shine into those areas of your life where it can cause you to have more faith in your own next steps, or faith that spirit has been speaking to you in terms of where it is that you're meant to go, who it is you're meant to be doing, what it is you're meant to be doing. Not doubting your desires or your passion, and taking action, illuminated action on those things. You're in a position now to be able to more eloquently and easily express your creative and imaginative energies. So if you've been imagining something in your inner eye or in your inner world, and you've been struggling to get that out, now the tables will turn and the energy will become available for you to take those imaginations, take that creative energy and move it into expression. Hallelujah! I have a big project that I've been thinking about in my mind for months now, and I just have not been able to put it together. And maybe I'm hoping now I'm going to have that opportunity. I'm going to feel that I can do that in a more empowered way now. I was thinking about this morning too, about whether or not you have Neptune direct or retrograde in your natal chart, and how does that affect us? Because Neptune is also puts us on the pathway to redemption. So redemption, and what does that mean, right? Redemption meaning, being able to succeed from things that have failed in the past, bad decisions that you've made in the past, and being able to move through that and out of that. It is something I think we'll talk more about as time goes on. What is that pathway to redemption, and how does it play out in Neptune, especially if, like I think it is in my own chart, Neptune is in retrograde, and you're constantly moving backwards or moving inwards instead of outwards. So this is head in your clouds energy that can become boots on the ground energy. It is that transition from the imaginal to the actual. The imaginal to the actual. So all of us, for the next several months, the next 6 or 7 months before Neptune goes retrograde again in June of 2020, we have this opportunity to again express our creative energy, what's been boiling up here, roiling up here, and bringing it down and into creation. I think all of us could probably feel pretty powerfully excited about that. Let's take a look at comments right now, see what people are saying. Trisha, I said good morning to Trisha. Good morning, Karen. Marissa says, sorry, off-topic questions. When can we purchase the personal calendar based upon our individual charts for 2020? Is it a link on your website? Not yet. Today I have an empty day until I do my broadcast on Annette's show at 3:00 p.m. West Coast time. So I'll be working on that. But Marissa, I believe that you are a member of the Living Astrology Academy, and there's a whole different thing for you, and that is that you're probably going to get that for free. But what's funny is I put that in the webinar last night that we did for December. I left it as a hidden jewel for people to find. So if you listen to it, you're going to hear it. And if you don't, you heard it now on air. But yes, you can get that, and it is not available as of yet for everyone else. It will be available here likely after today for purchase. The price will be $39, but it will be packed with personalized information for you for 2020. And the other option you have, of course, is to join the Living Astrology membership, where all of that stuff often comes to you at a reduced price, or in this case is a free gift. Good morning, Colleen. Good morning, Gail. Great to see you. Haven't seen you for a while. Mary, good morning. And Colleen says, I hope your big project is your goddess project. Well, goddess is one part of it. I have so many ideas, Colleen. It almost makes me dizzy. There's the Goddess Project. There's a Gene Keys project. There's a master class project. I mean, I have big projects. It's making the time and getting the inspiration to actually take it from this mind of mine and out into the world. That could be the problem. So I'm really hoping that Neptune now in forward motion is going to give me, sort of restore to me that movement forward in being able to do that. But the goddesses are one of the #1 big projects that I have on my mind, because they've become so much more of the archetypal energy available on the planet right now. So great. Gail says, I feel so powerful right now. Capricorn moon, Taurus sun. You know, one of the things that I went through in the webinar for December yesterday was really a deeper dive into Earth energy, because by the time we get through to the end of December and into early January, there's so much energy in Capricorn. It's staggering. I've never ever in my astrological life seen so many powerful planets in one sign. And some of them are going to be in the earlier signs, some of them are going to be in the later degrees of the sign, but there's going to be Jupiter and Ceres and Mercury and Saturn and the South Node and Pluto, and the Sun joins there, the Moon will be there. That's 8, and there were other pieces that I saw, Pallas Athena moving into that area. So by the time we end up in January with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, which also happens to be a Saturn-Mercury-Pluto conjunction, we need to know, how do we deal with Earth energy, particularly if you're someone who has that as a sort of missing element in your chart, right? In that grid that's down here at the bottom, if you guys all have your personal charts, down here at the bottom is a grid, and this grid right here, this one, shows you how many planets are in fire, air, earth, and water. Those are the letters down the side here. And across the top, it tells you whether it's cardinal earth, which is initiating energy, or cardinal of that fire, of that element, fixed of that element, or mutable of that element. So every one of you who have received your astrology, your natal chart, you have access to that. So if you have, you know, a light dusting of Earth energy, suddenly a whole lot more of that grounded, practical, application-oriented energy will be available to you. So on one hand, we have a lot of availability to get things done, but on the other hand, this number of planets put together in one sign can create a field of confusion, or of, you know, kind of being indecisive about which way to go, what to do, what to take action on. So here's where human design comes to the rescue, because type, strategy, and authority are very clear, very defined, and tell you exactly how it is that you're here to engage in the world, and how it is that you're here to make decisions, who you are in truth, where all of this other stuff that will be going on over the next few weeks, several weeks, can get very crazy and very unclear, even though it's Earth, right? Earth, you would think, is going to make things clear, but if it's a preponderance of planets in that sign, then it's not clear at all, because they're all jockeying for position. They're all wanting expression in that sign. So it can make things a mess. It can make a mess out of the transits of the chart. So we'll talk more of that in the astrology of 2020. How do you tweeze that out? How do you work through your life when you have so much that is confusing and showing you different directions? And so that's a part of what you'll want to join the astrology for 2020 for, so that you can clear that up. Gail, your Taurus energy, and is already grounding and already putting you in a great position to be able to take action. Marissa, dang it, I missed the 2020 webinar. No, you didn't. That's on December 11th, Marissa. What you missed was the December webinar for people who are in the membership, where we were just looking at December's energy, which was a lot. There's a lot going on in December. So you missed the December webinar. The Astrology for 2020 webinar, not until December 11th. And at the end of the slideshow for the webinar we did last night is the link where you have to register. Even though you're a member, you still have to register for the webinar so that you get the links on how to join that webinar. Colleen says, so exciting, one step at a time, definitely one step at a time. Good morning, Mary. Juicy, great to see you out there. I hope all is well in your part of the world. I would guess you are getting snow and maybe some wind. I know California is getting hit. Gail says, my head is spinning, so much to do. Yeah, feeling my goddess power that wants out for all to know. Isn't that the truth? I think we're all feeling that. Sarah, good morning. And Marissa says, got it. Great. All right, so let's transition over to the Pleiadian-Earth energy. As I discussed yesterday, we were at day 13. We were at the end of the Pleiadian-Earth energy week, and that means today we're at the 1. And that means we are in initiation and new beginnings. And funny enough, we're still in the shadow of the new moon that just occurred. So we have a lot of energy for initiation and new beginnings that are sort of lined up on our behalf right now. So it's a great time to begin new projects, not products, maybe products. It's a great time to begin new projects, new products, maybe new art things, new expressions. This is a great time to expand your thinking and embrace new ideas and new possibilities. So when we have a day like today, take advantage of it, right? Take advantage when anything and literally everything is possible. Right? All you have to do is choose. And guess what today is? In the earth energy, today is the day of choosing. Today's 1 choosing. So universally, anywhere, all life forms, we are resonating to the energy of 1, the new beginnings, right? That expansion into something new. And on the earth specifically, we're tapped into the choosing energy, which in the Mayan calendar was Ebb. And Ebb represented a road. And on the road, there were many choices one would have to make. And choosing was about understanding the power of choice and how it affects others in your world. So to me, when I was looking at this morning, I was thinking, wow, like a manifester. Manifestors and manifesting generators have an energy in their field, in their template about informing. And informing is about making sure you're aware of how your choices will affect others and letting people know before you take action that you're about to change course or you're about to act on something new. And in a way, you know, not all types are designed to do that, but aren't we all really open to hearing when things are about to change? Don't you really rather enjoy somebody saying to you, hey, starting next week, we're going to be changing how we do things. We're just letting you know ahead of time so you could be prepared. We all, as human beings, sort of enjoy the knowledge, even if we don't like the change, right? Even if we don't like the change, at least we want to know before things are going to change, which is why when change happens unexpectedly to us, we are in such a fit, right? We're like, no, no, no. We're by nature creatures of habit. We really don't like change, but we like it even less if no one has told us that, hey, things are changing. So in this energy of today, it's about every choice we make and how it affects everything around us, everything. So your choices in the grocery store of what foods you're going to buy, what products you're going to buy, and the consciousness behind that food or behind that product. Oh my goodness. And so we're having to become more aware. Today is the day where we get more awareness about our choices and how they affect not only you, but your friends and family, your community, and even the earth, right? The earth. And here is also a time for us to remember our connection to the cosmos, that we're woven into the tapestry of life. We don't set outside of it, right? So if the tapestry is here, you're not over here. You're in the tapestry, right? So everything you do, every choice you make has an impact on the whole. Human beings have evolved over the last several hundred to maybe a couple of thousand of years to almost feel separate from the whole, right? And maybe it's more like around the dawning of the scientific age and the Industrial Revolution that saw resources as something to be consumed, leading to consumerism and competition for resources and all of that, which comes from a position of our not being a part of the natural world, that somehow we've, disconnected ourselves from the natural world. So on a day like today, we get to strike out in a new way, as about in a way that brings us into that connection with all that is, with the entire cosmos. Even science would tell you that we are components, the carbon and all of the water elements, the oxygen and the hydrogen are all from the stars, right? You're made up of star energy. You're made up of the energy of the cosmos. You are not separate from it, right? You're a part of it. So today we remember that we are divine beings who have the power to co-create our reality through our choices. It's all about the choice. It's all about, do I go down the left road or do I go down the right road? That was left, this is right. So what road are you going to go down? Right? What choice are you going to make? And remembering that your choices are impactful. They have an impact. So if we can remember that, then we can also watch out for the negative expression in this energy, which is selfish choices, right? You know me, I'm not a big proponent of thinking about self-centeredness as something that's bad. Self-centered means that you're making a choice that's good for you, that is also going to affect other people in a positive way. When it's selfish, a selfish choice is one that is sort of taking away from others to empower yourself. So we want to watch out for the choices we're making and evaluating whether this is something that is good for all. Okay, what is going on here? Did I press a button on my computer? I might have. Is it a choice that's good for all, or is it one that is only going to benefit you? And in benefiting you, is it taking away from someone else? And this is a tricky sort of slippery sort of slope to go down, right? So, but always asking the question about what is this choice? Is this a conscious choice, or is the choice making me? Good questions, right? Allison says, I like to brace myself for the change. I think most people do, sweetie. I think most people really do. I know that, as a Gemini and Sagittarians, Virgos, and Pisceans, you're also part of the mutable core of planets. And that means that mutable is adaptable, versatile. They're more easily engaged in change. And when you have more air elements, sometimes that's also the case. You're more open to change. But even I like to know ahead of time if something big is coming, if something's going to change. So, for example, every year, you get those opportunities, if you're in the work world, in the corporate world, to choose what your benefits are going to be. And every year, then you get the choice whether you get to see it's going to be impacting you because it's more money. But finding that out in November versus January is priceless. I can plan for the eventual change, or the dollar amount change, or the offerings that are available. So knowing ahead of time is often very palatable to people, even people who like change and who embrace change easily. There's still a part of us, that we really want to know ahead of time. So if you're making big decisions, it is really behooving to you and everyone around you to know who will be affected by that big decision. And if you're a manifestor or a manifesting generator, it is absolutely a part of your type and your strategy to inform people who will be affected by the changes in your decision making, or the big decisions that you make. So you want to inform, not ask permission. You want to inform, hey, on such and such a date, this is going to happen. Or, oh, by the way, I've changed my mind and this is how I'm going to do this project now. I'm just letting you know ahead of time. So manifestors and manifesting generators, you have that as a part of your strategy. For the rest of us, it's not necessarily a part of our strategy, but doesn't it feel good to be on the receiving end of that? and or of that information, as well as to let others know what you might be up to in the world. Okay. So I'm going to go into Thanksgiving Day because here in the U.S. anyway, it's a big day for family getting together, traditions, and how everybody gets along until you're sitting at the table for dinner and Thanksgiving, and then suddenly everybody's shadows come out to play. So what can we expect from the shadows tomorrow? Well, I think it's actually, you have a good 50-50 chance of having a really good day tomorrow. And out of the other 50%, I'd say there's another 50% chance that it's going to be okay, that it's not going to be great, but it's not going to be problematic. And then there's the percentage out there of people that are going to go, oh my God, I cannot believe she said that, or oh my God, I can't believe he did that. Tomorrow, the moon will be in void. Of course it is, right? It's going to be in void, but for a very short period of time. For us on the West Coast, it's not even going to be a blip on our screen as it occurs while we're sleeping from about 2:50 a.m. until 4:33 a.m. For those of you on the East Coast, then that's about 5:50 a.m. to 7:33 a.m. So maybe it affects the timing on getting the turkey in the oven or getting some of the food ready. I don't know how early people put their turkeys in. I usually put mine in around 7 so that we could eat around 2 or 3. So there may be some delays. There may be some things that happen, but it's okay because now you're informed, right? You know that the moon is going to be void, of course, early in the day. And then it's done. But then the energy of the moon moves out of Sag and into Capricorn, where it's much more duty-bound, it's much more deliberate, it's very grounded, practical, routine-oriented. So all in all, I don't believe it will be a bad day. The energy of the planets that, well, let's deal with the moon's connections. One, early in the day, it will be conjunct Jupiter. So here's maybe a little bit of a warning for those of you who are hosting the Thanksgiving dinners to not go overboard. Don't become overly extravagant. Don't attempt to overdo, because when the moon is conjunct Jupiter, we can definitely overdo, right? If we're having, if we need 15 potatoes to make mashed potatoes for dinner, don't throw in an extra 5, because then you're going to be left with a lot of leftovers. I know that's sort of mundane, but even on a bigger scale, sometimes this is a day or a transit of a planet that can increase or decrease our sense of proportionality. So we might overdo, over binge. So it's kind of a warning to not overeat or over imbibe, because you'll pay for it later. The moon will also be in a trine to Uranus, so maybe you'll have some surprise guests. There may be some upsetting things that get said or done, glasses that get broken, or dinner that doesn't turn out right. Don't sweat the small stuff, right? Just know that that is a part of the experience of the day, perhaps. Later, the moon will conjunct Venus, smoothing things over, returning us to a sense of peace. And then later, the sextile to Mars that the moon makes ramps up the energy a little bit, gives us an energy boost. So all in all, not a really bad day. Now, there are 2 other planets that are dancing around tomorrow as well. So the ones we just talked about were all related to the moon, but we also have Mercury in a trine to Neptune tomorrow. Mercury ruling communication and the mind, Neptune already in a foggy state, having just turned direct, having today's moon in a square to Neptune, tomorrow now Mercury trines Neptune. So we may not be clear. We may not even hear people correctly when they're saying something. People may be sort of daydreamy, and maybe they're not quite, maybe they're a little out of sorts. And on the other hand, maybe they can be more animated in a different way than you normally expect of that person. So Mercury trine Neptune, I don't think that's a bad one at all. Then Venus is also in a trine to Uranus. Here's the one that's a little bit unpredictable, right? We have Uranus that does things in unpredictable and unorthodox ways, and also creates unexpected behaviors, unexpected actions. So with Venus, that's going to be about affecting your relationships, right? People are going to be picking up, maybe saying things that they wouldn't normally say, doing things they wouldn't normally do. Or on the other hand, is it that you unexpectedly all get along famously, and later you look back and you go, wow, I want more Thanksgiving days like that? So expect the unexpected, but allow for the unexpected, but don't fall a victim to having to react to those unexpected things in any kind of negative way, right? Just let it go. Choose how you respond, not react with that knee jerk because somebody spilled the gravy and now there's nothing to put on your turkey. Amazing how I can relate everything to Thanksgiving. So literally Thanksgiving Day, overall, not bad. Just watch out for a couple of little things as both the moon and Venus are going to trine Uranus, and that's a little bit unpredictable. Okay, I'm going to go back here, see if there's any questions or comments. Marissa says, I like a heads up about planned change. It's easier for me to adapt. You know, I think likely we're going to have a lot of experience in the next few weeks, maybe even the next 2 months, of having to adapt to a changing outer world very much on the fly. And that is going to be disturbing to the earth energies. And yet there's a very high chance that we can really do a lot with that earth energy. We can make progress as long as we choose not to be stuck. And you know, I was looking at this in the context of what's going on in our country, in the USA, with the impeachment inquiry and then the hearings, and what does that lead to? Well, when I look at that, the impeachment was the hearings, the inquiry was going on during Mercury retrograde. The hearings mostly took up partly the retrograde and partly the direct motion of Mercury. And now we've landed in a whole lot of earth energy that can get stuck in the old patterns. And it makes me wonder if we're not stuck here with all of the work that's been done, all of the case that's been built with impeachment and why it should be done, irregardless of your party affiliation or whatever. There's something bigger going on that we need to look at in this country, which also means that it's something that other nations are also considering through the reflection that they see of what's going on here. And it's about the destruction of these old forces, these old things, but it's also the last dying, grasping, gasping of the patriarchy and holding to authoritarian ideals, fascism. It's amazing how that has raised its head, and things that we thought we were done with coming back at us. And so we're at a choice point, I believe, as we move into the last month of 2019 and into 2020, about what choices do we make from here? Do we stay stuck? Do we allow this to continue? Or do we move through it as people and rise up and do something about it? That's the question, right? So what I want to talk about now, and we'll talk about this through the end of through the end of this morning's broadcast, is something very important happening on Monday. And I don't want to wait till Monday to talk about it. And is that Jupiter shifting signs, which it only does once every 12 years. And it is let me say this again. Jupiter shifts signs once a year, and it takes 12 years for it to move through the complete zodiac. So the shift it's making into Capricorn is the first time it's been in Capricorn since 2007 and 2008, which of course we know was the time of the Great Recession. And we saw all the weaknesses exposed in the economy, and not only in the economy of our own country, but in how other countries' economies affected us and how our economy affected others. In other words, we saw that we are really much more of a global economy than I think anybody expected, and that what happens in one country has an effect on the other countries, especially when you have the larger, more industrialized nations and the impact that we have on the smaller nations of the world. And then how did we go through that? Did we just put a bunch of band-aids on things, or did we actually enact some kind of change? Well, if you ask me, I think we put a bunch of band-aids out there. And so are those band-aids, again, going to have to be ripped off as we move into 2020 with Jupiter in Capricorn again? Because it was while Jupiter was in Sagittarius, as it's been over this last year, that things got out of hand, that extravagances were being taken in, and people were, not just people, but corporations were abusing things, abusing their powers. And all of that has been going on as well as we moved through Jupiter's transit this time in Sagittarius. And then karma comes home to roost when Jupiter moves into Capricorn, because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, the master of karma. So as we look then ahead at the next 12 months of Jupiter now going to be in Capricorn, what are we going to see fall away? What might we see that adds flavor to the destruction that's already endemic because of the things that are being exposed through Saturn and the conjunction to Pluto and the South Node? So there's a lot to consider here with Jupiter now moving into Capricorn, maybe more so. I think we were so blind at the time it moved into Capricorn 12 years ago as to, what was just waiting to happen economically. And it sort of happened in a bubble, and that bubble burst. And when it did, it was like dominoes, right? Crashing one thing after another. And does that mean we're primed and ready, like those dominoes 12 years ago, to be knocked off one after another? I can't say for sure. The one thing about astrology is it's always really good in hindsight, right? They always say hindsight is 20/20 in astrology. That's a very important thing for us to understand, that it has predictive ability in that we can see from the past how things might play out in the future, or, as, this new transit is upon us, but we won't see the exact details because the nature of evolution is in a spiral. Right? We're not repeating in a line. We're not in this front, going in this straight line and then going back in this straight line. No, that's not it, right? We're moving into a spiral, and then we get to the top of that spiral and we start at the bottom of a new spiral. And so nothing is ever quite the same. So it's hard to predict exact things, but we get a flavor and a feel for the energy of the sign and of what that planet means in that sign. So given that, the things that I'm going to share next about Jupiter and Capricorn are more generalities. I'm going to break it down into what would be the personal impacts for you as an individual, but also what are the transpersonal impacts, because Jupiter is a transpersonal planet. Right? It forms the bridge along with Saturn between our inner planets, Mars inward, and the outer planets, Uranus outward. So I hope that makes sense for everybody. Transpersonal in nature. So Jupiter will be in Capricorn from December 2nd, 2019 until December 18th, 2020. So we have a little bit over 12 months worth of Jupiter in Capricorn. The personal impact here is the optimism of Jupiter meets the conservatism of Saturn, right? We are in Saturn territory in Capricorn. That means we suck it in. Where Jupiter expanded it out, now Jupiter has to come inward and suck it in. So we have the idea of expansion meeting contraction. So what was large and big picture becomes more small and more detail oriented. So what we have as individuals is a time for us for focused growth. And it has to be focused in a specific direction. It's almost as if some things are falling away. And we may not be exactly aware of that in our personal lives yet, in your work, in the way that you serve or share of your gifts and talents, in your families, in your relationships, in your money, in your health. What's falling away? What are we having to let go of in order to focus our energy into growth of the right things for you, right? So in Jupiter, it was a wider net that was cast. And now with Jupiter in Capricorn, I meant Jupiter in Sag, it was a wider net. In Jupiter in Capricorn, it's narrow. And what's in that narrow field for you as we move into the next year? Now, that doesn't mean we won't have opportunities to expand, because the nature of Jupiter is expansion, but it is in a different caliber of sign. It is in an earth sign. So there isn't this fiery creativity that's just expansive and all out there. It's that fiery, that fiery expansion that's now focused in a direction. So it's opportunities with a plan, right? A plan for action. So we'll be validated, and we will find success when our big plans, our big dream has a plan, and that plan is laid out in step-by-step fashion, because Capricorn energy is methodical. It's planning energy, right? It likes to have the plan, and it likes to work the plan. So our opportunity for growth then comes attached to a plan. And that we then from that plan can grounding in what is next for us. We're kind of grounding in the future, right? Over here, we had a lot of ideals with Jupiter and Sagittarius, ideas and ideals and, pie in the sky sort of things that now have to be grounded into reality. And only the right things, the correct things, can be grounded into reality as we move into the future. Not everything that was possible is what we will be working on this year, right? There's specific things. You have a specific role. You have a specific area that Jupiter is laying claim to for you as you move forward from here. So then again, we are dealing as individuals with boundaries and boundlessness. I got those words from Human Design and the Gene Keys. Boundaries, as in Saturn likes limits. It likes to have, it likes to know that it can't go outside of the bounds, right? It likes to have this playpen effect where we can work within the boundaries of things. It's where building happens best, right? If you're building a house, you have a plan, a blueprint, and you're following the plan, right? You don't just on your own decide to go out and build this other hallway to nowhere, right? That doesn't have any meaning. And it can take away from the energy of what it is that you really are building. So boundaries, very important. And for a lot of people, we are very weak when it comes to boundaries. I know I am. I like the idea of no boundaries. But Saturn, I have Saturn in Capricorn. Boundaries are something I've struggled with all of my life. Accepting boundaries and accepting the boundaries is very difficult. But exactly what I'm going to have to do as I move forward is that there are boundaries. How far can you push them? And then on the other hand is boundlessness. When you are focused in the right direction on the right project with the right people and the right opportunity and the right time, you are boundless in what can happen, in what happens for you, what you can create. But having the boundary in the beginning helps you to focus that energy down the right path. So Jupiter in Capricorn bringing us that kind of opportunity. Boundlessness comes when you are within boundaries. And I know that sounds like a paradox. It's what in human design we would call a conundrum. That both exist simultaneously, and you just have to deal with it, right? So the boundaries are about what do you want to focus in on, while the boundlessness is once you have it, you are free. It's like an airplane taxiing to the runway, right? The boundary is they have to go down this one runway, but once they're there and they're in place and they get the go sign, they are off to fly to parts unknown, right? To wherever it is that they're going. So we're like the airplanes having to get onto the right track, the right runway, so that we can take off and fly. That's a great metaphor. I should have thought of that last night when I was doing the webinar. Lastly, the pressure on all of us at the moment, all of us as human beings, citizens of planet Earth, is about connecting to a worldview. And what worldview will you commit to? Are you going to commit to a worldview that is not inclusive of all people, all races, all religions, all of the diversity of the tapestry? Or do you really want to commit to a narrow field of Make America Great Again? Right? That narrow field is not maybe the correct field. Right? Remember the runway? Is that the right runway for us as humanity to run down so that we can fly off and be free and have a great, relationship with everything on the planet? Or is there a different worldview? And are you willing to commit to that worldview and then do what you need to do to support that worldview? That I think is something we'll be grappling with as well. Now, let me take a look and see if people are having any questions about this. Helen, good morning, my dear. Kathy Kelly Davis, I have Jupiter in Capricorn, raw. Actually, so Kathy, you're likely someone who gets things done, but it demands of you for focus, right? And not coloring so much outside the lines. There's a time for that, but for most of your life, you've got to focus in, and when you focus in, then you have the go sign, the green light. There you go. Marisa, to make sure I'm tracking, Jupiter in Capricorn impacts the outer world. Jupiter in my natal chart, Taurus in the second house, is where it will personally impact me. Yes, that all is true. But what I'm speaking about now is the transit of Jupiter through Capricorn. So you need to find where Capricorn is in your life, in your chart, which is a representation of your life. But then, whatever house that it is transiting through, and it may transit through more than just one, that's the part that will be focused in for you. And then look at the relationship. Your Jupiter in Taurus is going to be in a good relationship with Jupiter in Capricorn. So it means that there's, hopefully this nice flow, this nice method of getting things done that develops for you, that leads to Jupiter in the second house is about money and earning. And it would be then likely that Capricorn would be in maybe your 6th or your 7th house, and that might be affecting partnerships and relationships and so forth. So you're not wrong in saying that tracking Jupiter and Capricorn, how it impacts you in your chart, because it's multidimensional, right? It's not just that, but you've got to take into consideration, where is Capricorn in your natal chart? And that's the house where so much energy is playing out in. Okay. Tracy, good morning to you. Great to see you. Any other questions in here? No. Okay, so let's talk about now the transpersonal impacts of Jupiter in Capricorn. Now, Jupiter in Capricorn, Jupiter itself is a planet that rules the rules the laws, the regulations, and their just application. And as we move forward into 2020, Jupiter's going to meet up with Saturn, and Jupiter's going to meet up with Pluto, and they're going to be creating an opportunity for us to reevaluate the rules, the laws, the regulations, and are they being applied justly? So in other words, where right now what we might be seeing is the unfair use of laws, the unfair application of laws and rules and regulations, as in we see a president here in our country who flaunts the laws and does whatever he feels like he wants to do, that then force the Congress to take action through the judiciary system. So we're always dealing, what we're hearing about mostly is the haggling going on about the misuse or use of laws and rules and regulations in an unfair or unjust manner. It's already there in the field. So do you think we're going to be dealing with that more in 2020? And as Jupiter has this transit through Capricorn, you betcha. And I think there's going to be a blowback from the masses of people, we, the people, as we demand better than that, right? Where we demand that laws and rules and regulations need to be applied equally. That just because you have money doesn't mean you can buy your way out of trouble. Or just because you think you're the president of the United States, that you don't need to follow the laws and the rules. So we've had this sort of uneven expressed way that laws and rules and regulations have been applied, and that's going to be called into question. Right, that's going to be called up in a very big way, not only for now, but as we move further into the 2020s and this whole next decade. This is something that we're setting the stage right now for. Also, Jupiter through Capricorn is going to expose the weaknesses and the extravagances in government, in our institutions, and the systems that we have, and that with possible karmic repercussions, karmic impacts. We saw it in 2007, 2008 in the economy, a huge institution or a huge system, a governmental operation. Also, it can happen through government. It can happen through the military. It can happen through the education system, the religious system. So all of the big systems and institutions that we think of that we have come to depend on in some way or form are going to be exposed for the weaknesses that they have. So what does that mean? Well, for us personally, I think it means that we really have to become more self-sufficient. Chiron in Aries would suggest that for the next 6 years, we are becoming more empowered and more self-sufficient and more independent, knowing when interdependency comes into play, right? How do we work together instead of working at cross purposes to one another? So the karmic impacts will be shown to us through our systems while Jupiter's moving through Capricorn, because Capricorn rules those big systems and Jupiter is coming in with new ideas and new ideals and new possibilities. And you know, I think we already kind of know where the weaknesses are in those systems, right? Where they're falling apart, where the system that we have in place for medicine, for our medical system, not just here in this country, but other countries as well, grappling with rising and soaring costs, with the equal application of medical opportunities for people. It's huge. So we're here at a time on the planet when these big systems, these big things, these big complex things that we've discovered or that we've created will have weaknesses discovered and or become destroyed because of those very weaknesses, giving us an opportunity then to become more self-sufficient perhaps, but also to enact things in a more fair and just way. That takes time, people. It takes time, just as the issues that occurred in 2007 and 8 with the economy took time to heal, took time for us to pull out of that recession. The things that will be exposed during this transit with Jupiter will also take time for the exposure, time for the destruction, and then time for the rebuild. The question is, how do we want to rebuild it once it's destroyed? Did we rebuild the economy in a way that was fair, that is long lasting, because now everything has to stand the test of time? Or more karmic repercussions come up, more karmic impacts come up. Now, there's another big issue coming up that will be more impactful as time goes on, and that is the nature of God, country, duty, patriotism. These are all big buzzwords right now when, you know, people out there, people in power call into question your patriotism for being a whistleblower, right? For exposing something that isn't right. And how does that equate to being a bad patriot? Duty. What is our duty as an individual? What is our duty as a nation, as a tribe, a community to the greater, wider world, right? What duty and impacts do we have as a country? And how do we, as a spiritual nation, as a spiritual world, right? I'm sure more than 95% of the world engages in some form of spirituality, whether it's organized religion or, you know, a form of spirituality. And what is that about, right? Is that going to stand the test of time? Or is it, as an article I saw, you know, a headline with that says, you know, religion is destroyed? Does that hold true? I don't know. These are big things, transpersonal things that affect us in the bridge between what's going on in the collective and what's going on personally. But there's cautious optimism here. So even though these big impacts, these big things that we're talking about right now from our limited perspective, they seem sort of dire, right? We all readily see the problems out there in our world, in our government, in our institutions, and so forth. What we don't see readily is the solution. And that means now our focus has to shift from a recognition of the problem to the willingness to correct the problem. And the willingness is the piece. right? That's the piece here. The piece is the willingness. Are we willing to do what it takes to elect the leaders that are going to take us where we want to go, to state clearly what our values are and where it is we want to go? Are we willing to do that? So we're questioning that willingness now, right? Or do we just want to stay with the go with the flow, letting it just more of the same, because it's working so well, right? It's working so well to see our leaders acting like 2-year-olds, mudslinging and behaving badly. And yet there's this optimism that we, the people, have the power to rise up and make change, no matter what country you're in, no matter what you're operating under, whatever system you're operating under. Question the system. Be willing to do something, right? Be willing to come down and commit to a worldview that is different, right? That includes everybody, that's fairer. That's kind of what Jupiter in Capricorn will be bringing to us. And I know that's a lot. It's a lot. And yet it's extended over time. It's extended over time even more, I think, now, because we're at the crux of something really new, where Jupiter and Saturn coming together at the end of 2020 at the 0 degrees of Aquarius shows us what the utopian vision could be. And are we willing to make the choices that we need to get to that golden age, right? That golden age. What is that golden age? I think we're ready to entertain that. And yet over time, it will take time to bring that into effect, certainly. And it means that some things have to definitely change before we get there. Hi, Colleen says, I have Jupiter in Cancer, so opposed, challenging, yes. So you're being pulled in 2 different directions. The Capricorn business method, routine, there's a bit of a ruthlessness that happens sometimes in Capricorn. Not that the people are not nice people. They're very friendly, loving, giving people. But sometimes they're ruthless in their ability to make decisions and have it be cut and dried. On the other hand, at the other side is Cancer. And Cancer is a sign that is about family and traditions. It's more nurturing. It is sideways into decision making, where Capricorn heads right into the decision. So you're going to have these 2, maybe you're pulled in 2 different directions between family and work, or career, family and career. And you'll have to somehow give energy to both, right? Give energy to both your career and your profession and claiming your authority, and as well your family and your traditions and how you nurture one another. You'll have to show up in both equally. And I hope that makes sense. So yes, challenging because it's an opposition, but an opposition is meant for us to see both ends and come to the middle ground. Kristen, good morning. Marissa, thank you for breaking that down. You're very welcome. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone, from Allison. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Marissa says, it sounds like we are going to have to advocate for ourselves and for others. I love the way that you just said that. I'm even going to write that down. We're all going to become advocates for one another. I'm writing that down, Marissa. Become advocates for one another. I love it. Thank you. All right. So that is it for me this morning. I'll wait here for a couple moments because I know there's a lag in the transmission here to see if anybody has any questions about Jupiter and Capricorn. The best way for you to know about how it's going to affect you is to know yourself. If you are not very familiar with your astrology or your human design, get a reading. It's a great time of year to gift yourself with a human design reading or an astrology reading to get clarity about what's going on here in your own personal life. And let me just take this moment, since it is getting to be Thanksgiving here in the United States. I just want to say thank you for all of you who come here and listen to the things that will help you on your path to becoming you, knowing yourself. I want to thank you for your support of my work. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to do what we need to do to make this a more loving, kind, generous world. You matter. Right? You matter in this world. You matter to me. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for the influence that you've had on my life, and hopefully I've had a positive influence on yours as well. We are all in this together. So it is with great gratitude that I say so long for today. I will be back again on Monday, but look for updates perhaps through the weekend in the Living Astrology Facebook page and articles and so forth. So that's it for me today. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's see. It does make sense. That's what I thought. Okay, awesome. And good. I'm glad. Thank you guys so much. Take care. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving and much love to everybody. Bye for now.